Welcome, everybody. It's 1028 on your radio dial, and we are going to get into some logic right now. So I was working on a project, as I showed you yesterday. This project actually requires a little bit of violin work. All right. So this, sorry, strings. We'll say strings. It's easier that way to say strings. So I started taking advantage of Logic's brand new sample library workaround here, and I'm going to show you this here. Get into my strings. So let's go on the violins one, and I'm cranking up the sound here, and we know when we push a MIDI controller, and yes, I have my MIDI controller set up. It sounds like a violin, right? It's just simple bowing back and forth on the violin, but it doesn't have to be that. All right. It doesn't have to be just that. There are so many ways to play the violin, and we should be able to, or any string instrument or even horn instrument, anyone that played an instrument knows there's different ways that you can manipulate your instrument to get it to sound one way or another. Let's first go into the brand new sampler that Logic 10.5 has developed as we selected violin one from our library. As you can see, we went into orchestral, strings, violins one. The new sampler was now added to the effects. So let's take a look at this bad boy, because this is a brand new look for this. And you can see it's all updated. The controls are new. The modulators all look new. It doesn't look like Tony Stark's Iron Man chess piece. You know, there's a lot going on here, but it all has the updated controls. So let's take a look at what our variations of this violin are. So right now, my articulation for the violin is legato, right? Just basically holding the note constant volume, constant motion, constant speed. And it'll just keep going and going and going and going. There are other articulations for a violin. In fact, there are a lot of other articulations for a violin. Right now, they're giving me these 6. Let's see what staccato is. If anyone knows what it is, it sounds just like this. So it's a much shorter bow movement. It's just a quick half movement of the bow. Pizzicato sounds like this. It's almost like it's plucking the string. So that's a cool variation of the type of movement of a stringed instrument you can do. How about a tremolo? We know this from scary movies. It's just so that's a very quick back and forth movement of the bow. What else is there? There's trills. There's a halftone trill, which means we're going to go up a half note. So that's when the violin player has their finger on the string and will move it up and down the neck to get that halftone trill. Here's what that sounds like. So the trill part comes from the bow. The halftone comes from the hand on the string. Here's what it sounds like. Almost a fluttering. That's a halftone flutter. And this is an even more defined full tone flutter. That was used a lot in early cartooning. I don't know if you ever thought about it, ever watched a Warner Brothers, Porky Pig, Bugs Bunny, Tweety Bird, Sylvester the Cat, Pepe Le Pew. Yes. So that was used a lot to give action, to give emotion to movement. So
Hold up, hold. What
yes.
about what if you like take the violin and you like want to like tune it better, like you want to put like a higher notes on it? How would you do that?
Well, I could just simply use my octave. So if I have my MIDI controller, I turn it up an octave and like that. So I'm just touching my octave button on my MIDI controller. You want the trill to be a full octave? Is that what you're asking for?
Well, I'm asking, like, you know how on a guitar you got the E chord, the F chord, the D
Yeah.
chord, right? But like, if I'm playing like, for example, indie rock,
Hmm.
like, and I want to turn it up a notch, like, how would I tune it like up?
Um, yeah, I mean, when you're talking about a MIDI controller, the tuning comes from where on the octave scale you're going to be. So I'll show you this. This might help with your thought process here. Let me just get Ryan in here really quick. Um, if we look at our mapping, and so this becomes, the idea of where our EXS24 was. If I'm controlling sound, if I wanted to go up, I just go up on the piano, right? Over here on the left-hand side, there's a bunch of different groupings where like the different articulations are listed. Again, this is a brand new layout for Logic and the way they address strings, horns, orchestral based music. To address what you said, I'm going to say that if you wanted to go from middle C, which is right here, and you want to go up an octave to the next C, you would just either, if your keyboard is big, you just go up an octave. But in my keyboard, it's only 2 octaves at a time. So I push the up octave button and I can go up there, up octave again. And that's how I can do it. So if I wanted to go a note up, like you said, E to G to C, whatever, I could do that. It's C to E to G to A. So you could just push it on the keyboard. That's how you would end up going up the scale if that's what you were asking for. Volume wise, that's something that has to do with your velocity and, of course, the mix of that signal in the track right here. Um, let's take a look at violins too. Let's see if there's any changes when I go into a different violin. So we'll go into the sampler of violins 2. You can see very similar layout. I have it still set to legato on this one. Maybe I want to do, so I might be able to do it that way. That might work out better for me. Let's see the bass, which is a much deeper cello. That is also set to legato, and it's also the same articulations. There are others. If you look at a different instrument, and that's where it's going to come in handy today, we're going to actually add a brand new instrument, and we're going to use some horns in this one to see if there's anything different that we can do. We'll go into brass and we'll go into trumpets, and let's see what kind of options we have for horns. And in horns, obviously, we still have the legato option, but we are now only working with legato or staccato. So let me just get on the track itself so we can hear it. There we go. So there's your regular legato horn. Let's see what staccato does. And I could just push it and hold it, right? Let's go staccato. So it's just a much shorter um, hold of the note. And if we're in legato, we can see in some of these things are different than the staccato. And let's move around here for a moment and see if there's anything else that we can do. So there is options to import some synth stuff without a mapping device. Again, here's your mapping. We had talked about the mapping. Our zoning, which is interesting because you can now see the sample itself down here. And now there's editable parts of this. For instance, we can retune it. We can reanalyze it, transients for a tempo in the project. This, again, and I'll repeat what I said yesterday, has been a huge improvement in Logic. I'm talking about the biggest change to Logic I've seen since Logic went from 8 to 9 or even 9 to 10. We're talking about a long time. We've been dealing with Logic Pro X for a while, and not much has changed since it's first come out. This is the change. Let's see what else is available here. Trombones. Let's see our sampler and what our ability is. It's just staccato and legato. French horns are a very well used instrument. And let's see if there's any change in that. I'm thinking no. Oh, there is a crescendo. Now we're talking. Let's see what that sounds like. We'll go into our standard legato first and let's hear it. So let's hear what a crescendo would sound like. That's pretty cool. That I like a lot. I would find many, many uses for that. So it's kind of like a swelling of the sound. I hold it and it change its characters a little more bite at the end, and obviously a lot more volume at the end. Very, very cool. A full brass, which just gives you that full section. I'm interested to see if there's anything different here. No, doesn't look like it. So I can't really do much swelling with that one, which is fine. That's what the French horns are for. There are other instruments here that may have different variations. Our woodwinds, things like clarinet and flute and piccolo. Saxophone's actually under this one, which is interesting. Let's see if the sax has different variations in it. It does not. It actually has 0 articulations in the saxophone. Not a very big fan of that anyway. I always found that to be very, very bland, a very bland instrument. But the clarinet has some, so same thing, legato and staccato. So very short blown notes. The flute, I would imagine, has a very similar layout of staccato and legato. Yep. And so, right, that's your regular flute, but then staccato would be. So yeah, it almost sounds like someone's tiptoeing, right? So if we do it up higher, pretty cool. That'll be a fun one to play with one day. And one of the lower end woodwinds here of the oboe definitely has the variations, but this one actually has a vibrato. Ooh, let's see what that does. I'm going to go down a little bit. So there's a little bit of fluttering with this one, with the vibrato. So like I said, this is all new stuff, man. This is really cool to go through and look at what variations are available. The bassoon also has that variation. So to get you to where that is, sounds very 1990s video game esque. But yes, that's basically where we're at with those. Choir is going to be an interesting one. Let's go into the mixed choir for a moment because this is a little different now. We actually, in the mapping, can basically change voices. So you can hear the higher voices or more that I want to say like higher end male, lower end female, and then the lower ones are the men coming down there and the women. So they've actually been able now to split them out a little better than where it was. And then you can actually go in and, pick the classic male or females, the gospel ensemble, which was always one of my favorite ensembles because it just has so much, uh, soul in a way. It's like, yeah, we're doing it. Oh, it's good. I like that one. Still sounds very digital though because of the triggering. Um, they didn't change the actual audio file. That's what's interesting. They just redesigned the mapping of all this. Another thing they did some major changes in, um, and it's not so much something that you could see on the surface. And I'm pretty sure you guys looked at Drum Kit Designer before. We'll octave down a little bit. They actually added a bunch of new kits in the electronic world. I don't know if you guys saw this, and again, I didn't download all the world string and percussion stuff. Um, Obviously, we have our producer kits. You remember these with the plus sign next to them that shows that you can individually change instruments out. The biggest change, as I was going to say before, is the electronic drum kit. A lot of new content in here. Like I don't remember ever knowing what Orion is. I just can't push it fast enough. But that's a definitely cool new drum kit. Topaz, I don't remember. Vintage Cinema is old. Video Star, I don't recall if that's old. You also now see, and again, this is the reason why I came in here, there is the DMD, the Drum Machine Designer. And this is something we've already gone over, we've already looked at. But remember, we used to have to go find it. It was buried inside of the sampler lineup. And so now they actually are showing it as the actual sampler, which is very, very interesting because they have not done that before. And I wanted to be able to choose my sampler before. And now, if you click on this, you can't click and hold and show that menu any longer. Now they're going to give it to you right off the bat. What if I wanted to go to Ultrabeat? Where is Ultrabeat? Right? Where did Ultrabeat go? Let's delete this for a second. Let's start a new software instrument. And let's see where Ultrabeat might be. So we're going to go into, where am I in the right place here? There we go. Sorry. So we're going to go into instrument. So that is still available to you. You still can get into Ultrabeat here. The other one, and I don't think they added the new one. No, you can't get into that one, the new EXS24. So that's not here, by the way. Do you see that there's no more EXS24 here? Doesn't say EXS24. The new one is called Sampler, as we were seeing with these violins, two, and basses. So Sampler is the new version of the EXS24. I think I was watching a video. The video title was, "Did Logic Pro X just ghost us? Where's EXS24?" It's here. This is it. This is now the EXS24. And if you want to do the same things with this that you could do in the old one, it's here. Everything's here. The mapping is here. You can bring in your samples. You can drag your audio files to create your sampling. You have your zones, and you have your ability now to do one shot in reverse. This is all EXS24 stuff. I was going to save a little bit of this for tomorrow, but might as well while we're here because I was talking about sampling. This is the new EXS24. It doesn't seem all that different when you break it down. If you remember the elements of the old EXS24, it's pretty much the same thing. It just looks better. Um, it just looks more modernized. So if I want to go in and let's see if I can find my samples now. Good luck finding samples. Let's see, kick. No, no. How about snare? I had it on my other drive and I meant to drop them in there for sampling. We'll do that tomorrow then, which is what I was going to do tomorrow anyway. But basically, you can now drop your samples in. We're going to update our sampler tomorrow with new samples and stuff that we can use. But it's the same layout. I mean, if you look at it, it's the same thing. What else has changed inside of this menu? There is the quick sampler. That's new. Let's see what that looks like. So this is a really cool place to do very simple EXS24 movements with very minimal connections or very minimal um, parameters to change. And so that's where the audio file comes in, lets you bring that in, do a one shot, slice it up, do a recorder. You can actually record something in here. So I can actually record directly in. Ready? Select the recording input. Input is going to be my input one. Check, check. Hey, hey. Show, check it out. So there's my sample, right? And I don't know why it's not triggering it. Probably because I don't have it soloed. So there it is. It's let me octave back. So you see how quick that was to start sampling? I mean, immediate. Now, obviously, I recorded it with the microphone. If you had a pre-existing audio file you were sampling from, it wouldn't be this simple. But I literally just recorded from my mic, and I got my sample now. And then I can create slices where I can do different things to it. So if I want to just play those parts, I can actually make it into a, let me get back to this. Where's my thing here? See? So slicing actually allows you then to make multiple notes turn into different parts, and then you get to decide, like, I want this one to be there, this one to be there. They'll usually find the transients for you. This one is probably unnecessary, so we'll get rid of that one. So then we have C1. And then I can put like a little just to kind of have a bass thing to go. So then I can use my checks, these, as my snare. And then really, I just said, yo, check it out. And that was it. And then I can play it in one shot, right? Right? You guys know how to use this stuff. This isn't new, but we can now, in the same window, in the same element, now change pitch and filters and really kind of create different variations of these samples, by squaring off the waveform. Phase it up. So it's coming from different places on my spherical, and we'll crank it. Excuse me. So yes, there was I was just delaying my sneeze. A lot of different ways now you can manipulate, and this is the quick sampler, the Q sampler, as you see it here. So we can do a more detailed version of the sampler through the sampler plugin, but now they also included quick sampler, which I like a lot. It's just boom, you're done, you're ready to go. And like I was saying before, not much else has really changed. There's a couple little, the Mellotron, I think, was relatively new. Something else I wanted to show you, and we can go into contact 5, and we'll just do a stereo output. So we also always have had the ability, I don't have all my content loaded. Well, that sucks. I don't have my external hard drive plugged in, so my content's not there. We always had the ability to use third-party plugins. And to do that gave me an insight onto what the ability of using strings was. Maybe I'll plug that one in tomorrow as well to go along with the sampler lesson we'll do. Um, basically, the third-party plugins have always had the options for things like staccato, legato, and all that other stuff we were talking about. The same things that Logic has inherently now put into its layout. This is kind of where everything was going, because there was a massive need for Logic's instruments to sound better. And the way people manipulated them was very complicated. It wasn't easy to do. They've addressed that. And I think that was a really big deal for them to do that in this release. I mean, that's huge. Let's hear what our violins are going to sound like with the rest of this track. So here is the violins mixed in with the rest of this. Right? So I have violin 1, violin 2, and of course my my mic is loose, and my bass. So those three violins in conjunction with each other, if we mute up the rest of the track so you don't hear any of the other parts, this was all done in legato. So if you hear those didn't, I might end up programming those parts, and this was just these parts here, to go into a staccato instead of legato. So you see that they have it here. Now, what's interesting is, and if you look at it now down here in the articulation area, we can actually program individual notes to be different things. So let's see how that works here. I want these to be legato. So this part, right here, I'm probably going to want to go into staccato, not the other ones. These are legato, these are staccato. So let's see how that works. And that's why I like the new sampler, because it allows us to do that. And I'll probably end up increasing the velocity on these, because, even with staccato on here, like that, maybe even pizzicato. Let's see how that sounds. We can keep going back and forth and then just kind of blend it in. Interesting. I don't know if I like that. It sounds a little too high for me. Let's see again what a staccato change would be. And those are just more of a short, quick bow movement. So I have the bass kind of holding that note, so that provides the platform, the foundation for the note changes or the chord changes, and then the other ones are just changes in speed. They didn't, just kind of going up and down on the two notes. So now if I bring that back into the mix with the drums and the guitars, here's how that sounds. So I'll have to go in and maybe fix a couple of things of speed, but other than that, man, I think it's turning out good. And this was all because of the new sampler that allowed me a very easy access to the way these notes are played, the way they are performed, and then how that translates into the final mix. My recommendation, of course, is if you have Logic to go in and mess around with this, because you're going to find new sounds and new ways these instruments are going to sound. An amazing transformation that Logic has put us through for what our abilities are and our capabilities are. If you can imagine it, pretty much now you can do it. Um, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. We kind of briefly went over live loops yesterday, and that's part of it. But this just keeps going, man. We'll go into the sampler tomorrow and really show you the full power of what that sampler can do. We'll also discuss the quick sampler again, just to remind you. Also, the space designer and delay designer are all changed. And these are major plugin components. I had a conversation with the engineer this week talking about Logic, and we were going over plugins, right? We're saying, oh, we got Slate, we like Native Instruments, we like Isotope. Those are the most Waves plugins, obviously. Those are some of the most popular ones. The deal is there's a lot more, but Logic and Pro Tools both have a nice core set of plugins that are usable right out of the gate. EQ, compression, reverb, delay. All of that is solid stuff. Not to say you don't want to use another plugin like Echo Boy from Sound Toys, or the one I showed you, Valhalla Supermassive, which is a really cool free delay reverb plugin. But the core of the software, when you get it out of the box, is actually extremely powerful. And I really want to make sure you understand, how good these software is and how much and how far they've come to get to this level of buy the software, pretty much that's all you'll need, at least to start out. Then as you spend time and effort throughout the next, years of your career gaining an understanding, you definitely will be able to start adding to your plugin library and, create new stuff or network with people to find out what the next best thing is or the next new thing. AES had a ton of plugin tables. People offering free trials. Always take advantage of a free trial to make sure it's what you were looking for before you buy something. All this stuff is out there. All right, guys, do yourself a favor, complete all your work, make sure you get everything done. Number two, if you're going to compete in that AMP contest for scholarship, do yourself a favor and do it regardless. It's good experience and good time. And then finally, obviously, my gym people, get your gym done, and make sure you complete all your work. It's the more you do, the better your grade will be. Go ahead, Wawa, what's up?
Yeah, for the Project 11,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any of my work at home with me, and the only thing that I had with me was on a flash drive, and my computer cannot take the regular flash drive. So like, I don't know how am I supposed to like, how am I gonna be able to transfer my files to the computer and to upload them to the link account?
So you're talking about the podcast, correct?
No, not the podcast. I'm talking about the Project 11.
Yeah, Project 11 was a podcast.
I mean, the last project, the one, the 12.
The YouTube and the LinkedIn thing?
Yeah.
I don't need any files.
So
So
just create
what
the
are you
account.
uploading? All you're doing is copying it from a web address into your project.
But I don't have any like
I see
project
what you're
that.
saying, to put on those things.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that sucks.
What if I what can you like do you have
You have
anything that I can?
nothing at your house from last year or this year at all.
I have one is in a CD and my computer doesn't take CDs. And I have another one is in like a flash drive. My computer doesn't take the regular flash drive.
So your computer doesn't take USB at all.
No.
Hmm. Here's my recommendation, and I don't know if you know anybody that has one. Give it to somebody that has a USB flash drive connection for a computer, and have them just email it to you. Throw it in a Dropbox, throw it in a Google Drive, and share it with you. There are so many ways around that.
But what if like you send me anything to edit that I can edit anything like a project editing project,
Well, I did give
that
you
I
those
edited.
environmental ones that we did. Remember, I sent you
Yeah, but
those.
can oh
Sure,
okay, can I use
use
this
that.
one?
Yeah, you could use that. The other thing I will say is this: we are right now working on um, a day where you can come into the class and get your stuff out of your locker and get your stuff off your computer.
Oh,
Here's,
okay.
here's what I'll say in preparation for that day, because it's going to come up quick. If in fact you come in, I mean, they're going to restrict you like crazy, but mask, gloves, all that other crap to come get your stuff. You got to have your flash drive with you, a working flash drive. I cannot sit with you and help you with anything. So
Okay.
you got to know where it is, where to go, and how to get it very fast, because you will have a very small window to get stuff out of your classroom. It's the only way I can do it. I have no other way of getting you your work. I don't have the backups are at school. Eventually I will. Eventually over the summer, more than likely we'll be back in the classroom doing stuff alone. I could always, send you some stuff. But for this project, for project number 12, for the YouTube and LinkedIn stuff, for now, like I said, just put what you have as best you can. Do yourself a favor, get your flash drive to someone or someplace that has the ability to take a USB and then to upload it to a flash drive. I'm sorry, upload it to a Google Drive and then email it to yourself so you can grab it. That's the only way I would
Okay.
know how to do that. All right. Vince, you had your hand up. What's up, bud?
Nah, it was about coming into school and getting your stuff.
Did you get a letter at home by any chance yet?
Nah.
Okay. I believe I have the information. I just don't want to pull it up on screen for my email. So what I'll do is I will post it here with the date and the time of which they are scheduling people to come back. I believe it is next Monday. I believe it's June 8th. You can come in and get your stuff, and it's by last name alphabetically. There's only going to allow you, obviously social distance in the class, so it can't be everyone at once. And like I said, you got to come in, get your stuff out of your locker, download what you can off your flash drive, and get out. That's pretty much, it's going to be like a fire drill. It's going to be as quick as possible kind of thing. And I'll post that. I'll go into my email and just confirm that information before I say it, because I don't want people just to show up randomly at the wrong time with the wrong name. So I'll post that up. Keep an eye out here on the stream for that information. All right. And you know what? I'll go over it tomorrow in the lesson before we start. That was my plan from the beginning, because I just got it late last night and I didn't get a chance to upload it. I was still going back to this stuff for the contest and, of course, for the grading policy. All right, guys. Well, listen, enjoy the rest of your day. I will see you guys tomorrow right back here at 10 a.m. Get as much work as you can get done so you can get full credit for this quarter and get a good grade for the year. Stay safe out there. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Later.